The Mark Cuban that we know now is a little different from the petulant version, although he has his moments now as well. But he certainly cleaned it up a little bit more adult. He's a really interesting guy. Some people love him, some people can't stand him. When you first met him, before he was Mark Cuban that we've come to know, when the cameras weren't there, what was he like to deal with? Did you guys get along?
Well, I'll tell you, the first time I met him, this is an interesting story. Craig James. Do you remember Craig James from CBS? He played at SMU.
The running back, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Craig and I were friends here in Dallas, and he basically brought Mark Cuban into our offices with Ross Perot Jr. and I. This is before, the Mavericks or any of that. It was when he was kind of launching broadcast.com. And Ross Jr. and I, interestingly enough, we used to own the Michael Irvin show. Now, Michael Irvin, who obviously was a great football player for the Dallas Cowboys, we owned the studios at Las Colinas, and we owned the Michael Irvin show.
Nice.
And in those days, it was fun because Michael was as raw as you could get. I mean, Tiki, you probably know a lot about Michael, but he was full of personality. And Craig James was the moderator for the Michael Irvin show. And so it was broadcast, locally, and we owned the show. Well, if you really take a look into Cuban's business background, broadcast.com was really developed to put sports on the Internet from a voice standpoint. It wasn't any video at that time. It was just broadcasting games and shows and different things. And so he came in and sat down with Ross Jr. and I, and I'm not a technology guy, and Ross Jr. probably was more of a technology guy, but at the time, not much either.
Mm-hmm.
And he started giving us the concept, and when he walked out, we thought it was crazy. And so we didn't get involved, which we should have got involved. We probably cost us $40 million. But the fact of the matter is that we met him kind of that day. In 1999, there was some discussion internally about what were we going to do with the team. We had just gotten the arena approved. It was under construction. The economics for the team was set. We made a hell of a buy from the original owner, Don Carter. And there was some discussion internally about what were we going to do. And Mark Cuban was in the market for a team, and he was looking at Denver. Denver, the Pepsi Center, the whole thing was for sale, and he wanted to buy the Mavericks. He was a Maverick fan, and he countered his own offer, 2 or 3 times. And candidly, he wanted the team. As I mentioned in the earlier segment, I didn't want to sell the team because I knew we were going to get good. And again, I used the phrase, I was the captain of the Titanic for 2 or 3 years, and so it would have been fun to own the team at a time when we were now starting to get really good. But, he made an offer and made another offer, and Ross Jr. made a decision as the majority partner that it was time for us to sell the team. So that's what we did.
Now, you still hang around. You still go to the games. You still see all of these old, colleagues and friends, in some regards, players, because Dirk has been playing forever now, that you used to see?
Time to time, the Mavericks the last couple of years, really haven't been, very good. I'm still a Maverick fan. I think that ultimately, though, there's got to be a change in the direction of the franchise. There are some statistics that are very telling as it relates to Cuban's ownership of the team. And these are amazing statistics if you really think about it. I'll just give you 2.
Yeah, such as?
If you take a look, since the time that he bought the team from 2000 and now, one player, 1 year, made an all-star team that he drafted. One player, 1 year. That's Josh Howard in, I think, 08 or 09. He made one all-star team one time. So the draft has been non-existent really for the Mavericks since Cuban bought the team in 2000. That's a pretty amazing statistic. The second statistic is everyone knows, they haven't been very fortunate in free agency. And I think I'm right on this one. You guys can I know I'm right on the first one.
Mm-hmm.
You can fact check this one. But in free agency started in earnest our first year, 1996.
Yep.
That's when Shaq went from Orlando to the Lakers, and they drafted or they traded for Kobe.
Yeah,
Charlotte,
Knicks got Allen Houston. Absolutely, that was a busy summer.
So yeah, '96 was the start of all that.
Yep.
I signed a guy by the name of Chris Gatlin. Do you guys remember him?
I remember everybody. Of course, I remember Chris.
Gat
Yep.
is one of the all-time greats who has really not done well in his life after basketball.
That I didn't know. That's sad. Okay.
Yeah, has not done well, and he came from a great family, and I wish him well.
Gotcha.
But Chris Gatlin made the All-Star team in the 1996-1997 season. He's the only free agent in Mavericks history ever to make an All-Star team. Now, they've had guys that they've traded for that have made All-Star teams. So when you take a look at this, it's kind of amazing. Those are amazing statistics for a franchise. In 2006, well, actually in 2004, I think the worst scenario imaginable fell on the Mavericks when they were unable or unwilling to sign Steve Nash, and they let him go to Phoenix for no compensation. I think if Nash was on that 2016, I don't think there's any question that they would have won that championship. And then, of course, in 2011, Dirk put the team on his back with Jason Terry and Jason Kidd, who then came back to the Dallas Mavericks via trade kind of at the end of his career. And they were able to put a run together where they took, Wade and LeBron out. But if you really take a look at the whole scenario, those are some pretty amazing statistics when you really think about a 17-year period.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Frank, and you can position these stats one of two ways, the way you did, and I'm actually at some point I'm going to get around to the free agency and check that on my own, although I certainly take your word for it. I just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody. They still win, going back to the early days, 52, 58, 60, 67, 51, 50, 55. I mean, so does it really matter? Who they draft or who they sign, they win. And what's the difference?
It doesn't matter until you get into a stretch that you're in now where, you don't really have all-star caliber young players. And, Don Nelson, I'm a disciple of Don Nelson Sr. He believed that you had to build a team through the draft. He believed that free agency was important, but it was supplemental to the fact that you had to go out and you had to find good, young, talented players. I mean, you look at the Mavericks roster now, they don't have an all-star on their team. Short of Dirk in the last, how many years, they really haven't had an all-star caliber player on the team. And, of course, yes, from 2002, let's say, to 2011, they won a lot of games, no question about it. But they had a superstar in Dirk Nowitzki that was really coming into his own, and somebody you could build around. In the NBA, you have to have all-star quality players, or you're not gonna win. And I think the way that they've set this thing up now, they've gone into the free agency. They got Harrison Barnes. They went out and got Wesley Matthews, which I believe they overpaid for. They were unable to make the deal with Jordan out of the Clippers because of that whole mess that they got involved with there.
Yep.
So, I just think, again, I think that it's a varying schools of thought about how do you build a team.
Let me ask you this, Frank. Not a lot of time, but I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. My wife's from Dallas, so I'm pretty in tune with the day-to-day politics of what's happening there. And historically, we know which way it leans, obviously. But I can't imagine that every fan is overly receptive to the way Mark Cuban continues to project his political thoughts in an area which, for the most part, it's counter to that. How is it flying? We only have about 40 seconds, but give us your best answer.
It's not going well, and, their television ratings, the local television ratings now are the worst in the NBA. I think that there's a lot of pushback. And, again, Cuban is an American. He can say what he wants. He can do what he wants. I disagree with him. I think that a lot of it is for self-publicity. And, my position is there should be a little bit more reverence for the office. If you don't like the person in the office, and I'm a completely independent guy, I have no ideology, I don't lean right or left, but, you have to have, in my opinion, some respect for the office of the presidency. And I think he's been incredibly derogatory to Donald Trump. Whether you like him, you don't like him, it doesn't matter. I think you have to have respect for the office.